Dump the white trash today, or you are dead to this family, my mother hissed, pointing a trembling finger at the woman I loved. We found you a real wife, a proper wife. The room went dead silent. My girlfriend Emily froze, her hand tightening around mine until her knuckles turned white. My sister Nadia sat in the corner, smirking like she had just won a lottery. I didn't scream. I didn't flip the table. I just stood up, smoothed out my jacket, and looked my mother dead in the eye. Loving her makes me dead to you, I said, my voice terrifyingly calm. Then consider this my funeral. To understand why I declared myself dead to my own mother over a plate of untouched lamb, and why I don't regret a single second of the chaos that followed, I have to back up. My name is Omar. I'm 27 years old and I work in logistics management. On paper, I'm a success story. I rose from a working-class immigrant neighborhood to a six-figure salary before I hit 30, but in my family, I wasn't a man. I was a wallet with a heartbeat. Since my father passed away 5 years ago, I stepped into the role of head of household without question. It was my duty. And I paid the mortgage on my mother's house, paid for my sister Nadia's car, her insurance, and her endless gap years while she figured out what she wanted to do with her life. I didn't mind the financial burden at first. I thought it was what family did. We supported each other. But support is supposed to be a two-way street. House it was a robbery. My mother, Mrs. Farah, operated on a strict ancient code. In her world, sons were princes who were owed obedience, but they were also property. She believed she owned my future, my choices, and specifically who I would marry. She wanted a daughter-in-law who would cook, clean, speak our language, and, most importantly, never challenge her authority. Then I met Emily. We met at a coffee shop near the hospital where she worked as a pediatric nurse. She was everything my mother hated on paper: American, independent, blonde, and opinionated. But she was everything I needed. Emily listened to me. She didn't care about my salary, but she cared about my day. For the first time in my life, I wasn't performing a role. I was just Omar. I kept Emily a secret for 8 months. I knew the storm that would follow. I lived a double life, spending my days managing shipping lanes and my evenings in the quiet peace of Emily's apartment, dreading the drive back to my mother's house, where the guilt trips were served hotter than the tea. But you can't hide. Happiness forever. Eventually, I started coming home later. I started smiling at my phone. I missed a few mandatory family dinners because I was actually living my life. Nadia noticed first. My sister has a predator's instinct for weaknesses. She cornered me in the kitchen one night while I was getting water. "You're seeing someone," she said. It wasn't a question. It was an accusation. "It's none of your business, Nadia," I replied. Turning to leave, "Does Mom know?" she asked, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "Does she know you're spending the money that should go to the roof repairs on some ... outsider?" That was the first red flag I ignored. Nadia didn't care about my happiness. She cared about the resource allocation. She saw a girlfriend not as a person, but as a threat to her allowance. "I'll tell Mom when I'm ready," I said. "You better," Nadia smirked. "Because secrets have a way of getting out. You know how Mom gets when she's the last to know." Should have realized then that Nadia wasn't warning me. She was preparing the battlefield. I just didn't know that the war she was planning would end with me burning the whole house down. I decided to rip the Band-Aid off in June. Emily and I had been dating for nearly a year, and hiding her felt disrespectful. She was patient, Saints-level patient, but I could tell the secrecy was wearing on her. She wanted to meet the people who raised me. She wanted to be part of my world. "Are you sure?" I asked her one night, tracing the line of her jaw. "My family... They can be intense. They aren't like your family." "I handle screaming toddlers and angry doctors for a living, Omar," she laughed, kissing my hand. "I can handle a protective." Mom, God, I loved her optimism. She had no idea she was walking into a shark tank covered in floral wallpaper. I brought Emily to Sunday lunch. I thought a casual setting would keep the tension low. I was wrong. From the moment we walked through the door, the air in the house changed. It grew heavy, like right before a thunderstorm. My mother opened the door. She looked at me, smiled, and then her eyes slid to Emily. The smile didn't just fade, it evaporated. She looked Emily up and down, lingering on her bare arms. It was 90 degrees out, and Emily was wearing a modest floral sundress. "Hello, Mrs. Farah," Emily said, extending a hand, a warm smile on her face. "It's so lovely to finally meet you. Omar talks about your cooking constantly." My mother didn't take the hand. She just nodded once stiffly. "Shoes off," she commanded. Turning her back and walking into the kitchen, Emily's smile faltered for a fraction of a second, but she recovered. She took off her sandals and followed me inside. Nadia was waiting in the living room. Lounging on the sofa I paid for, scrolling on the iPhone I paid for, she looked up, her eyes narrowing. "So this is the mystery girl," Nadia said, not getting. "Up? You were blonder than I expected." "This is Emily," I said, my voice firm, "and she's a guest." "Nadia, be polite," Nadia said, flashing a venomous smile. "So, Emily, what do you do? Or does Omar pay for your life too?" "Nadia," I snapped. "It's okay, Emily," interjected calmly. "I'm a pediatric nurse. I work at City General." "A nurse?" my mother called out from the kitchen, the clatter of pots. Loud and aggressive, like a servant for the doctors. Cleaning bedpans, very noble. The insult was so casual, so precise. Emily stiffened. "Actually, nurses provide critical care and manage patient recovery. It's highly skilled work." "Sit," my mother ordered, bringing out a tray of tea. She slammed the cups down a little too hard. The next 2 hours were a masterclass in passive aggression. My mother spoke to me in Arabic, ignoring Emily completely. When I switched to English, she would frown and switch back. Nadia asked Emily. Invasive questions about her body count under the guise of cultural curiosity. "In our culture, women are modest," Nadia said, sipping her tea. "Right. We don't show off our skin to every man on the street. It must be nice to have no shame. It's very freeing." "I'm comfortable in my skin," Emily said, her voice tight. "And I think modesty is about how you treat people, not just what you wear." Nadia laughed, a cruel, high-pitched sound. "That's exactly what someone with no morals would say." My hand on the table? "Enough. Both of you." "We are just talking," my mother cried, throwing her hands up. "Why are you so sensitive? She is a guest. We are getting to know her." "Unless you are ashamed of her." "I'm not ashamed of her," I said, grabbing Emily's hand. "I'm ashamed of you." We left early. The car ride back to Emily's apartment was silent. I kept waiting for her to break up with me, kept waiting for her to say it wasn't worth it. Instead, she squeezed my hand. "They're scared, Omar. They think they're losing you. We just have to be patient." We tried. For 6 months, we tried. Showed up to birthdays. We brought gifts. Back. Emily learned basic Arabic phrases to impress my mother. She baked traditional pastries that my mother would take one bite of and spit out into a napkin, claiming they were too dry. But the breaking point wasn't the insults. It was the rumors. I started getting texts from cousins I hadn't seen in years. "Hey man, heard your girl is wild. Is it true she used to be a stripper? Auntie said she's just with you for the green card." "I was born in Michigan. I don't need a green card, Nadia." It had to be Nadia. She was poisoning the well. She was. Telling everyone in our tight-knit community that Emily was promiscuous, gold-digging, and trash. She was systematically destroying Emily's reputation to ensure she could never be accepted. I confronted Nadia about it over the phone. "I'm just protecting you," she screamed. "She's not one of us. She's temporary entertainment, Omar. You know it. Mom knows it. Stop playing house and come back to reality." "She's the woman I'm going to marry," I said. The line went dead silent. "You wouldn't dare," Nadia whispered. "Mom will kill you." "Let her try," I said 2 days later. My mother called. Her voice was sweet, disturbingly sweet. "Omar Habibi," she cooed. "We got off on the wrong foot. I want to make peace. Bring Emily for dinner on Friday. I will make lamb. We will talk. We'll fix this." I wanted to believe her. I desperately wanted to believe that my mother loved me more than she hated my happiness. So against my gut instinct, I agreed. I didn't know I was walking us into an ambush. I told Emily about the dinner invitation with cautious optimism. My mom wants to make peace, I said, though a knot in my stomach tightened as I said the words. She's making lamb. That's her I'm sorry dish. Emily, ever the optimist, lit up. See, I told you. They just needed time. I'll wear the long dress this time. I'll bring flowers. It's going to be fine. We arrived at 7 p.m. The house smelled amazing, roasted meat, spices, saffron rice. For a fleeting second, I let my guard down. Maybe the rumors had stopped. Maybe they realized I wasn't going to budge. My mother opened the door with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Come in, she said, ushering us into the dining room. Nadia was there, sitting at the table. But she wasn't alone. Sitting next to her was a young woman I vaguely recognized. She was beautiful in a traditional way-dark hair, modest dress, eyes cast down demurely. Her name was Layla. She was the daughter of one of my mother's friends. From the mosque. Emily paused, sensing the shift in the room immediately. Oh, I didn't know we had other guests. Layla's family, my mother said breezily. Pulling out the chair next to Mitha, one Emily was about to take and gesturing for Layla to sit closer. Sit, Layla. Omar was just asking about you. I froze. I hadn't asked about Layla in 10 years. Mom? What is this? I asked, my voice low. It is dinner, she said innocently. Sit down, it's Emily. You can sit there. She pointed to a folding chair at the far end of the table, separated from the group. The disrespect was physical. I felt the heat rise in my neck. Emily sits next to me, I said, pulling the chair out for her. My mother's face tightened, but she didn't argue. She'd just served the food. For the first 20 minutes. My mother and Nadia spoke exclusively to Layla. They asked about her cooking classes. They praised her family's lineage. They talked about how good, obedient girls make the best mothers. Blah. Wants 5 children, Nadia said loudly, looking directly at Emily. Unlike some career women who are too busy wiping other people's bottoms to raise a family. Emily set her fork down. Her hand was shaking. Mrs. Farah, Emily said, her voice trembling but brave. I know we got off on the wrong foot, but I love your son. I take good care of him. I was hoping we could start over. My mother stopped eating. She looked at Emily with a look of pure, unadulterated disgust. You love him? She scoffed. You love his wallet. You love that he is exotic to you, but you are not his wife. You are temporary entertainment. The words hung in the air like smoke. Excuse me, Emily whispered. You heard me, my mother said. Leaning forward, you are white trash. You walk around with your skin showing. You touch men who are not your husband. You are dirty. Omar is just having his fun. But now it is time for him to grow up. Layla is a real wife. She turned to me, her eyes hard. Dump the trash, Omar. Tonight, or you are dead to this family. We have arranged everything with Layla's father. It is done. Pause for a moment. I want to know what you guys think was. Am I being too harsh with what I did next? Or did they push me too far? Tell me in the comments. I looked at Layla, who looked mortified but silent. I looked at Nadia, who was grinning. Looked at my mother, the woman who raised me, who I had supported for 5 years. Looking at me like I was a dog, she commanded. And something inside me snapped. It wasn't a loud snap. It was quiet. It was the sound of a cable finally severing under too much weight. I stood up. You think I'm property? I said quietly. You think you can sell me to Layla's father like a goat? I am saving you. My mother shrieked. She's perfect for you. I don't want perfect. I said I want Emily. I reached down and took Emily's hand. We're leaving. If you walk out that door, my mother hissed, standing up to match me, pointing a trembling finger at Emily. If you choose her over your blood, do not come back. You're dead to me. I have no son. I looked at her. I looked at the hate in her eyes, and I realized she didn't love me. She loved the control I gave her. If loving her makes me dead to you, I said, my voice terrifyingly calm, then consider this my funeral. Turned my back on her. I heard a plate shatter against the wall behind me, but I didn't flinch. I walked Emily out the door into the cool night air, and I didn't look back. The drive back to my apartment was silent, But it wasn't the awkward silence of our previous fights. It was the heavy, vibrating silence of adrenaline wearing off. Emily was trembling in the passenger seat. I reached over and held her hand. Fingers were ice cold. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I ruined your family." "No," I said, staring at the road. "You didn't ruin anything. You just turned on the lights. The house was already rotting. When we got inside my apartment, my sanctuary didn't collapse." I didn't cry. I felt a strange, robotic efficiency take over. My mother had declared me dead. Dead men don't pay bills. I sat down at my computer and opened my banking portal. For 5 years, my paycheck had been the lifeblood of that house. Paid the mortgage, I paid the utilities. I paid for Nadia's lease Dottie. I paid for the family phone plan. I transferred $500 a week to my mother for groceries that often turned into designer handbags for Nadia. I looked at the scheduled transfers list. It was long. Click, cancel. Click, cancel. Click, cancel. I called the phone company and removed everyone but myself from the plan. I called the insurance company and removed Nadia's car. I moved my savings into a new account at a different bank. One my mother didn't have the password to. "What are you doing?" Emily asked, watching me type with terrifying speed. "I'm planning my funeral," I said. "If I'm dead to them, then my money's dead too." The silence from their end lasted exactly 3 days. That's how long it took. For the first auto payment to bounce, it started with a text from Nadia. "Hey, my card got declined at Sephora. Fix it." It's embarrassing. I didn't reply. 2 hours later, Omar. "Pick up the phone. Mom is trying to buy groceries and the card isn't working." I didn't reply. Then came the calls. 5, 10, 20. My phone buzzed so constantly it vibrated off the table. I watched the names flash on the screen: Mom, Nadia, Auntie Samira, Uncle Yusef. The flying monkeys had been deployed. I turned my phone off. It was the 1st of the month. Rent was due. The mortgage was due. And for the first time in 5 years, the prince wasn't there to sign the check. I expected anger. I expected guilt trips. I didn't expect violence. Sunday morning, 8 a.m. I was making coffee when a pounding on my apartment door shook the walls. It wasn't a knock. It was an assault. "Omar, open this door." "I know you're in there," it was Nadia. I looked at the peephole. She looked deranged. Her hair was messy, her mascara smeared, and she was hammering on the wood with her fist. Behind her stood her boyfriend, looking awkward and menacing. "Emily, go to the bedroom," I said calmly. "Lock the door." I opened the front door, but kept the chain on. "What do you want, Nadia? You cut off my car?" She screamed, trying to push through the gap. "They're going to repossess it." "How am I supposed to get around? You ruined my life. You're 24. "Nadia," I said, "get a job." "A job?" She looked at me like I had spoken in tongues. "I am your sister. You owe me. You think you can just abandon us for that? ... That slut." She spat at the door. "Where is she? She hiding? Emily? Come out so I can drag you out." She threw her shoulder against the door. The chain strained. Her boyfriend stepped forward, looking like he was about to help her kick it in. "We need the money, Omar," Nadia hissed, her eyes wild. "Mom is crying. She's sick. You're killing her. Give me the cash. Now." This wasn't family anymore. This was an addict looking for a fix. Now was the drug. "I'm calling the police," I said. "You wouldn't," Nadia scoffed. "We're family." "I don't have a family," I said. "I'm dead, remember?" I slammed the door and locked the deadbolt. As Nadia started screaming obscenities and kicking the wood, I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. The police arrived in 6 minutes. I watched through the peephole as 2 officers escorted a screaming Nadia and her boyfriend down the hallway. She wasn't arrested, declined to press charges because despite everything I couldn't bring myself to give her a criminal record, but she was given a strict warning. "Do not return or you will be arrested for trespassing and harassment." Seeing my sister being led away by cops was the final nail in the coffin. It was ugly. It was humiliating. But strangely, it wasn't sad. It felt like popping a dislocated shoulder back into place. Painful. It's followed by immediate relief. The next few weeks were a war of attrition. My extended family launched a full-scale assault. I received long, rambling texts from aunts I hadn't seen in a decade, quoting religious texts about honoring parents. My uncle left voicemails calling me ungrateful, saying I had been corrupted by the West. They used every weapon in the book: guilt, shame, religion, tradition. But they forgot one thing. I held the only weapon that actually mattered. The money. Without my income, the house of cards collapsed fast. My mother, who had never worked a day in her life, had to sell the house. I heard through a cousin that she moved into a small apartment near my aunt. Nadia's car was repossessed. She had to move back in with our mom and, for the first time in her life, get a job. She's working retail now. I hear she hates it. I didn't rejoice in their struggle. I didn't throw a party. I just let it happen. I stopped being the shield that protected them from the consequences of their own choices. Emily and I moved too. Months later, we bought a house in a quiet suburb, 30 minutes away. It has a big kitchen and a garden. We didn't tell anyone the address. It's been a year now. Silence from my family has turned from aggressive to permanent. I am, for all intents and purposes, dead to them. And you know what? It's peaceful. There are no more screaming matches. No more critiques of my life, or no more feeling like an ATM machine. Last week, Emily and I got engaged. I proposed in the kitchen while we were making dinner. No big production, no drama, just us. When I put the ring on her finger, she asked, "Are you sad they won't be at the wedding?" I thought about it. I thought about the empty chairs where my mother and sister should be. And then I thought about that dinner. I thought about my mother, calling the woman I love trash. "No," I said. "I'm not sad. I'm safe. We are planning the wedding for next spring. It's going to be small. Just friends, Emily's family, and the people who actually choose us. I used to think that blood is thicker than water meant you were stuck with your family no matter how toxic they were. But I looked up the full quote recently. The actual saying is, the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. It means the bonds you choose are stronger than the ones you inherit. I chose Emily. I chose my peace. And if that makes me the villain in their story, I can live with that. Because in my story, I'm finally free. If you've ever had to cut off toxic family to save yourself, tell me your story in the comments below. And if you believe that respect is a two-way street, hit that subscribe button. Let's build the family we deserve right here.